In Hollywood, confidence is currency, but some stars don't just carry themselves with confidence. They walk, talk, and live like they're untouchable. They interrupt award shows, compare themselves to gods, mock interviewers, and treat every red carpet like it's a personal coronation. These celebrities don't just believe they're the best, they want everyone else to know it. And if you don't agree, too bad. From explosive egos to unapologetic arrogance, these are the 7 celebrities who've taken self-importance to a whole new level. At number 7, Kanye West. From the moment Kanye entered the music industry, he made one thing painfully clear. He wasn't just here to compete, he was here to dominate. And he didn't need your approval. In fact, he barely wanted it. The arrogance wasn't subtle. It was loud, deliberate, weaponized. When Kanye said, "I am Warhol, I am Shakespeare, I am Walt Disney," it wasn't a metaphor. He meant it. And when he stormed the stage at the 2009 VMAs, snatching the mic from Taylor Swift, declaring Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time, it wasn't just rude. It was Kanye telling the world, "My opinion is more important than your moment." He's called himself a creative genius, compared himself to God, literally naming an album Yeezus, and publicly attacked everyone from fellow artists to major brands when they didn't bow down to his vision. Interviews often turned into rants. Collaborations often turned into control battles. To Kanye, being misunderstood isn't a problem. It's proof that he's on another level. But the arrogance isn't just about confidence. It's a refusal to acknowledge fault, even when the world is watching. Whether it's business deals collapsing, friendships imploding, or backlash mounting over his public comments, Kanye often doubles down instead of backing off. To him, compromise looks like weakness. And humility? That's for people who don't believe they're a god. Some fans say it's passion. Others say it's delusion. But either way, Kanye West isn't trying to be liked. He's trying to be legendary. And in his mind, there's a big difference. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing is undeniable. Kanye doesn't just walk into the room. He believes he owns it. At number 6, Justin Bieber. From teen heartthrob to tabloid headline, Justin Bieber's rise to fame was as explosive as his attitude. At just 16, he was a global sensation. But with fame came a level of arrogance that shocked even his most loyal fans. He wasn't just acting out. He was acting like he owned the world. By 2013, Bieber wasn't making headlines for his music. He was making them for spitting on fans from a hotel balcony. No, really. A group of believers waited outside for hours, and when they finally got a glimpse of their idol, he leaned over the railing and spit. That single moment said it all. In Justin's world, admiration wasn't earned, it was expected. And the list of arrogant behavior didn't stop there. Drag racing in a residential area, vandalizing property, egging a neighbor's house just because he felt like it, being arrested for DUI in Miami, flipping off paparazzi, storming off stage mid-show, and even disrespecting historical sites. Remember when he visited the Anne Frank house and wrote in the guest book that he hoped she would have been a belieber? That wasn't tone deaf. That was delusional. But what made it worse was how unapologetic he seemed. Sure, there were occasional PR apologies, but they always felt like damage control, not regret. Bieber acted like rules didn't apply to him. That fame gave him a free pass to treat people however he wanted. And for a while, the industry let him. Fans tried to defend him, claiming he was just a kid growing up in the spotlight. But being young doesn't justify being arrogant. And Justin's ego wasn't just youthful rebellion. It was entitlement, plain and simple. He didn't just break the rules. He bragged about them, smirking through controversy like it was part of his brand. It took years, and a string of public breakdowns, before Justin started dialing it back. But by then, the damage was done. The sweet Canadian kid who once sang Baby had turned into someone many couldn't even recognize. And whether he's truly changed or just polished his image, one thing's clear. At his peak, Justin Bieber wasn't just famous. He was arrogant enough to believe the world revolved around him. At number 5, Jennifer Lopez. She may have started from the Bronx, but somewhere along the way, the Jenny from the block image got buried under layers of diva behavior, sky-high demands, and an ego that's impossible to ignore. In Hollywood, confidence is expected. But with J.Lo, many say it's crossed the line into straight-up arrogance. Her reputation for being difficult isn't gossip. It's practically legend. Crew members have spoken out about how she refuses to make eye contact with staff. One viral story claimed she demanded an entire hotel floor be cleared for her, even forcing guests with reservations to be moved. Another, she allegedly insisted no one speak to her directly unless spoken to first. These aren't exaggerated anecdotes. They're part of the J.Lo mythos. And then there's the feud trail. She's publicly thrown shade at other female artists, including Mariah Carey, famously saying, "I don't know her," when asked about her. A line that became meme-worthy, but also deeply petty. She's criticized others' vocal abilities despite facing years of accusations about lip-syncing herself. When you think of someone confident in their talent, it's one thing. But J.Lo has repeatedly made comments that suggest she believes she's above everyone else in the room. The arrogance shows up in interviews, too. Whether she's describing herself as the hardest working person in showbiz or dismissing others' success as luck, Lopez often comes off less like a humble icon and more like someone obsessed with being seen as untouchable. She once claimed she was misunderstood by the media. But fans argue she's been understood perfectly, as someone who believes her fame gives her the right to treat others like extras in the Jennifer Lopez show. Even at award shows and in press rooms, reports suggest she arrives late, demands top-tier accommodations, and rarely offers a genuine moment unless the cameras are rolling. The image of the relatable Latina star has long faded, and what's left is a powerhouse performer who's not just proud of her success, but seemingly convinced she deserves more than anyone else. Jennifer Lopez didn't just build a brand, she built a throne. And if you don't acknowledge her status, she probably thinks you're just not worth her time. At number 4, Alec Baldwin. He has long been known for his commanding screen presence. But off-screen, it's his explosive arrogance and infamous temper that steal the spotlight. Whether it's berating photographers, clashing with airline staff, or humiliating colleagues, Baldwin's legacy is as much about his ego as it is about his acting. The arrogance starts with how he treats people, especially those who dare challenge him. From screaming at reporters to shoving paparazzi, Baldwin's never been one to keep his cool. But the real tipping point came in 2007, when a voicemail to his then 11-year-old daughter leaked, where he called her a rude, thoughtless little pig. The world was stunned. It wasn't just a bad parenting moment. It was a glimpse into the rage and superiority he carried behind closed doors. He's had public meltdowns over being asked to turn off his phone on a plane. He's insulted journalists on live TV. He's thrown fits on Twitter, often firing off insults and threats before deleting them later, like it never happened. And the pattern is always the same. Alec Baldwin acts like the rules don't apply to him, like he's somehow above accountability. Even on set, stories have circulated for years. Coworkers describe him as difficult, condescending, and impossible to work with unless everything goes exactly his way. And while Baldwin often tries to spin his behavior as passion or being misunderstood, the truth is simpler. It's arrogance, plain and sharp. But nothing compared to the tragic and controversial moment on the set of Rust, where a prop gun Baldwin was holding discharged and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins. While the incident was ruled accidental, Baldwin's reaction ignited massive backlash. Instead of showing humility and grief, he gave interviews, played defense, and pointed fingers. Many felt his tone was more about protecting his image than taking responsibility. For someone involved in a fatal tragedy, his need to control the narrative came off as cold. And yes, arrogant. Alec Baldwin isn't just a talented actor with a temper. He's a celebrity who's spent decades showing the world that he'll speak, react, and lash out however he wants, and expect everyone else to simply deal with it. At number 3, Ellen DeGeneres. For years, Ellen DeGeneres was America's quirky, dance-happy sweetheart, the one who preached kindness, gave away cars, and joked her way into the hearts of millions. But behind the staged smiles and feel-good monologues, a much darker narrative started to surface, one that exposed a staggering level of arrogance, hidden behind catchphrases like "be kind." It started as whispers. Former employees began speaking out, describing a toxic workplace where bullying, intimidation, and emotional manipulation were allegedly the norm. But the most shocking part? Many of them claimed that Ellen herself wasn't just unaware. She was actively part of the problem. Staffers accused her of treating people like they were disposable. One even said employees were told never to make eye contact with her in the hallways. Let that sink in. A talk show host whose entire brand was relatable and kind allegedly didn't even want to be looked at. Then came the viral tweets from comedian Kevin T. Porter, calling Ellen notoriously one of the meanest people alive. The responses exploded with hundreds of stories, from waiters who said she shamed them for chipped nail polish to employees who claimed she fired people for taking sick leave. And with every story, the curtain was pulled back a little more, revealing a woman who built an empire on empathy, but allegedly practiced elitism and ego behind the scenes. Her interviews also showed signs. Ellen often interrupted guests, made passive-aggressive jokes at their expense, and sometimes crossed lines that made viewers cringe. That infamous moment with Dakota Johnson, when Ellen tried to call her out for not inviting her to a party, only for Dakota to correct her on air, was a rare unfiltered peek at the disconnect between Ellen's public persona and how others really saw her. When the backlash hit full force, Ellen issued a public apology. But many felt it was rehearsed, cold, and, again, all about protecting her image. Even her farewell season came off not as a graceful exit, but a damage-controlled retreat from a world that had finally seen past the glitter. Ellen DeGeneres didn't just lose her show, she lost the illusion. And in its place, we saw what critics had been saying for years. Behind the laughter, there was arrogance. Not the loud kind, but the kind that wears a smile while looking down on everyone else. At number 2, James Corden. He may have started off as the cheerful, chubby Brit singing in cars with celebrities, but behind that karaoke smile is a reputation that's grown increasingly toxic. In fact, if you ask many people who've worked with him or served him off camera, they'll tell you the same thing. James Corden is not the friendly guy he pretends to be. He's arrogant, entitled, and disturbingly condescending when the cameras aren't rolling. The backlash began slowly. People started calling him out online for interrupting guests constantly, making interviews about himself and using fake humility as a cover for real egotism. But things escalated when former coworkers and industry insiders started sharing their own stories, and they weren't pretty. A recurring theme? He acts like he's better than everyone in the room. The real turning point came with a viral call-out from a New York City restaurant owner who banned Corden from the establishment. Why? Because allegedly Corden screamed at the staff, berated a server over an omelet, and demanded free meals while throwing a tantrum. That wasn't just a bad day, it was the ultimate celebrity meltdown. And even after issuing a public apology, many felt it was hollow, especially since the restaurant owner later said Corden doubled down in private. He's also been accused of being dismissive to fans, rude to airline staff, and cold to lower-level crew members. One former employee claimed Corden once yelled at someone for looking him in the eye without permission, a line that sounds almost too absurd to be true, but fits right into the image that's emerged. What's most infuriating to critics is how hard he tries to come off as relatable and humble. The whole "I'm just a funny guy in a suit" act works until you hear about how he allegedly belittled interns, ignored fans at meet and greets, or demanded first-class perks with zero gratitude. James Corden's fall from grace didn't happen overnight. But over time, the smile wore thin, the jokes felt forced, and the arrogance started to leak through the cracks. For someone who built a brand on charm, the truth behind that grin was just too big to hide. At number 1, Madonna. She didn't just break the rules, she rewrote them. But for decades, her defiance of the status quo came with something else. An ego so inflated, it often eclipsed her talent. Because as much as she's a pop icon, she's also known for being one of the most arrogant, self-obsessed figures in entertainment history. Let's start with how she treats people. Because everyone from dancers to collaborators to fans has stories. Former backup dancers have spoken out about being underpaid, overworked, and treated like accessories. Some said they were forced to sign intense NDAs just to be in her orbit, while others claimed she created a culture of fear where even minor mistakes were punished with humiliation. If you weren't useful to Madonna, you were disposable. But it doesn't stop there. Her interviews are legendary, not because they're inspiring, but because they often reek of superiority. Madonna has openly insulted other female artists, calling Lady Gaga's work reductive, mocking Beyoncé's choreography, and brushing off younger performers as copycats. The message is always the same. Madonna walked so they could crawl, and they better not forget it. She's also notorious for showing up late, sometimes by hours, to her own concerts with no apology. Fans who paid hundreds of dollars would wait restlessly in packed arenas while she strolled in when she felt like it. And if they dared complain, she would mock them, telling one audience, "You should be grateful I even showed up." That's not diva behavior that week, that's pure contempt. Even her social media presence is a masterclass in narcissism. Constant filtered selfies, cryptic captions, and desperate attempts to stay relevant, all while pretending she's above it all. When critics point it out, she lashes out. Madonna doesn't just want attention, she demands worship. And if she doesn't get it, the claws come out. Madonna may be the queen of pop, but behind that crown is a legacy tainted by decades of arrogance. She didn't just build a career, she built a throne. And for years, she's looked down from it, daring anyone to challenge her reign.